You made in Kessler Park, Stevens Park, East Kessler. You didn't go south. They didn't say it out loud. It's just it was just a kind of a known thing. And to me, that makes me think of this kind of thing. Whereas if we start thinking of ourselves as, you know, I think the North Oak Cliff just got started because there's so much south. You know, it used to be, it's really southwest Dallas in a way, and yet Oak Cliff practically goes to Duncanville these days. And yet originally it didn't. And I think the North Oak Cliff term probably got started just to designate the area that was the oldest part that was kind of the original Oak Cliff. I don't know that people intended for it to be elitist, but it may have become that way. It's easy for preservationists to get kind of that way, you know? I can.
It kind of, well, you know, I did that contest thing, right? And so I said North Oak Cliff, because rather than alienate and just pick one neighborhood and have all the rest of them get mad at me, I thought, well, I'd say, but I was looking for the older houses, and they would be to the north of Oak Cliff, and so I made that big lump, right? But then you go to the Dallas Observer website, and then I'm a racist, and we're racist, and we're all this stuff, and we're elitist, and we're all these things, and I was like, oh man, just, you know, like, you just get in trouble no matter what.
Well,
but I'm learning because I would have gone and fought with them, and I just did the same thing. So.
It's not worth it. You know, it's over anyway. You know what you can say about that. But anyway, I mean, they can get some things right, and they can get some things wrong, and then they kind of like to be controversial too, probably. Anyway.
Yeah, that's true too.
And I think that I can understand why he would use the North Oak Cliff to cover this general area, just like they used to call Glen Oaks and those places out there. If they didn't use Oak Cliff, they called it Southwest Dallas. Or South Oak Cliff. I've noticed lately that we've been lumped in with South Dallas. I mean, that's what, you know, I've seen Oak Cliff lumped in that way, the North Oak Cliff and South Dallas. So, you know, we can all get easily offended if we want to about things. And I think we just have to. But I do think we need to be careful and try to be sensitive. And after all, when we started the league, Glen Oaks wasn't that old.
No,
And so things change over the time. And so I think that, but it's something that you have to be aware of and sensitive to.
What are your thoughts on the Conservation League and modern development, the relationship between those?
Gee.
Because what I see in Kessler and throughout is that we're seeing modern development happening right beside old properties, and how, I guess, how do you see that fitting?
Well, if it's in a district, there are some guidelines, and I think that's why we have the guidelines in the district, and so we don't get houses that aren't compatible with the historic houses. Are you thinking particularly of down here? See, I don't know my neighborhoods anymore. Where all the really modern houses are.
It's right across the street from him.
Oh, it is. Well, my personal feeling about that, I don't think it's a very appropriate use myself.
Okay.
But that's just me. I think the houses are interesting, and I enjoyed seeing them. And I'm sure they're architecturally significant, but they don't appeal to me a lot. That type of house doesn't. To me, that type of house needs its own particular setting. That's how I feel. I love modern houses, but I love to see them in a wooded area or in something, you know, that just, there's some over in East Kessler, and there are some marvelous lots with houses like that. But that's just my personal opinion, because, you know, I can totally understand somebody disagree with me, but I don't know how people felt about it over there. Was generally the acceptance of it?
I think it was an acceptance because the alternative was an unused lot that was, you know, basically where the dogs running through. And so something new and well built was seen as a vast improvement over nothing.
Well, I can understand that, and that's probably what I don't think I'd go out and crusade about it if I could be me. I might have preferred to see something else. I know there's some awfully interesting houses along there that I like very much that I would prefer over those, you know, in terms of the look. But that's just me. I just happen to like the older places.
A lot of the neighborhoods don't have guidelines, though. You know, you've got Kings Highway, and you've got Winnetka, and you've got North Cliff and Lake Cliff, and I'm missing some. But, you know, like West Kessler, where he lives, I mean, he has a castle going next door to him right now. I mean, a lot of people don't have that, and so and they gathered the historical department at the city, and so there's one person doing the job of what 8 used to do, and all of Stevens Park and East Kessler, their conservation districts are on hold. They've been sitting on somebody's desk for years, for 50 years, and so it's while these things continue to be built, and that's my big fear is not that I like that development because it's all similar and it fits, but it's that thing where you just chunk something in the middle of the next to a field bed, you know, and it's making shade over your house, and it's just
Those are awful.
yeah. And so how do we as a conservation league push for more of that and more restriction and more and convince more neighborhoods that that's in their best interest to like you say, West Kessler, to get some guidelines so that he doesn't have a castle going next to his town?
Well, I don't know. Doing what you're doing, you know, is getting your council on. But you know, a lot of it has to do with property owners who live right there too. I mean, Kessler neighbors worked on getting some kind of protection, haven't they?
Do they have
it now?
it?
And but it takes the people themselves doing it. An organization can talk about it a lot, but unless people are willing to work together, sign a bunch of petitions, do that type of thing, or however, whatever it takes these days. Because, you know, maybe some people don't care if that kind of thing is next door to them. I mean, we had that happen over here. There were a lot of people said, why shouldn't I keep this zoning? I don't care what this neighborhood say. Maybe I'll get a bunch of money for my house, and they wouldn't sign a petition.
Well, our successes center around those districts.
Yeah.
All our fame and all our things
That's
that
right.
are those districts.
So, but it's hard, and I think that's happening all over the city. It certainly happened in University Park. And I don't think those people, have they done anything about it at all? It's just, in the M Street, it's just terrible. This lady has anything else?
I didn't have a question, I just wanted to say, you know, some of us have to be pretty old to remember the Ruth Mead area. And there's some homes still over there that have a lot of character. And
Yes, I know Ruth did some research on Ruth Mead, and
I lived in that area for 47 years. There's a lot of character over there.
In some ways, we were lucky that Oak Cliff had been kind of neglected.
Right.
Because it left us with a lot of good housing stock. You know, we didn't get the Gaston Avenue Parsons.
Right.
I have come back and forth to Oak Cliff for decades, and I wondered if there was one point in the 80s or 90s, for example, when we just thought it was point hopeless, that whether Oak Cliff sort of reached what is a nadir, a low point in terms of whether you thought it could be salvaged.
In the 80s?
Well, any decade, any year you would consider to be a, because I know Fort Worth Avenue, even Davis, you know, there was some pretty sad stuff going on those streets.
Well, I don't think I ever really thought about it. I guess I must have been an optimist or something, or just too stupid young to, you know, get too discouraged about things. But once we started seeing things happening in Winnetka Heights, I think we felt like it could move to other neighborhoods. Now, it didn't go as well. I mean, we worked down in the Dallas Landing Lonesome, but that was kind of hard to get things going down there. And but I don't think I ever felt like I saw little bits of progress all the time, and I never really felt.
I don't see hookers on the street anymore, and I used to see
Well, yeah, but my kids went to Lanier. All my kids, I have 3, went to Dallas Public Schools. And 2 of them went to Sidney Lanier for their arts program over there. And there were routinely hookers on our way to schools. But I don't know. I love living here, and I think it's a great community. It's always had an eclectic feel to it. Back in the early days, there have been a lot of artists and people that like that lived in Oak Cliff, and we've got the same thing now. I think it's. I wouldn't live anywhere else.
Me neither.